Imagine a world where the perceived trust you might place in political figures kind of clashes head-on with the high-stakes, high-risk world of unregulated finance.
Yeah, it's a fascinating and frankly slightly concerning landscape.
That's exactly what we're exploring today. We're taking a deep dive into the curious case of Robert Findon.
Right.
Our mission, really, is to understand how his pretty prominent political background intersects with his involvement in these high-risk investment schemes.
And it definitely raises some big questions, doesn't it? About trust, financial prudence, things you, our listener, should be aware of.
Absolutely. So let's start with Robert Findon himself. On the new Capital Link website, he's listed simply as an alternative investment introducer.
Which sounds, professional enough on the surface.
But honestly, that title barely scratches the surface, does it?
Not at all. If you look at his public LinkedIn profile, you see this deep, active history in conservative party politics. We're talking senior campaign roles.
Yeah, like campaign manager for the party, parliamentary assistant to Caroline Ansell MP.
And deputy campaign director for the Kent Conservative Group. These aren't minor roles.
No, definitely not. And what's really striking, as you pointed out before we started, is that this isn't just ancient history.
Exactly. He's currently named right now on the Tunbridge Conservative Association website as their campaign manager.
So he's actively involved in political campaigning today.
Still very much in the game.
Okay, so this is where the questions really start to pile up, I think. Why is someone with this kind of prominent, current political background someone voters might trust with outreach, with election strategy now involved in promoting, well, frankly, high-risk financial products?
Yeah, the firm he's with, New Capital Link or NCL, they market these unregulated loan note schemes, primarily to retail investors.
And unregulated loan note schemes, let's unpack that a bit for people. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, essentially, think of them as IOUs, high-interest loans issued directly by private companies to investors. They completely bypass traditional banks.
Okay, so cutting out the middleman, perhaps.
Sort of, but the critical part is the unregulated bit. It means they inherently carry much higher risk. And crucially, they fall outside the protection of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, the FSCS.
Right, FSCS. That's the safety net, isn't it? Like deposit insurance for your bank savings.
Exactly. And without it, if the company issuing a loan note goes bust or the firm promoting it collapses, well, your investment isn't protected by that government-backed scheme.
And looking at NCL's track record, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
No, it really doesn't. A significant number of the loan note companies NCL has promoted have actually collapsed.
Collapse meaning investors lost out.
Often, yes. Left with serious losses, no interest payments coming in, no return of their original capital.
And absolutely no recourse, nowhere to turn.
Very little recourse, typically. It's a really difficult situation for those investors.
What's also concerning, you mentioned, is that Robert Findon isn't sort of operating in a vacuum at NCL.
Not at all. The team around him, well, it has a deeply questionable history.
Okay, like who?
Well, take Rachel Buscall. She's the CEO of NCL. Her background shows very little experience in regulated financial services. And perhaps more worryingly, she's fronted multiple investment firms that previously collapsed.
Okay, that's a pattern.
It certainly raises eyebrows. And then you have James Baird.
James Baird. The name sounds familiar.
It might. He's actually a convicted fraudster. He played a key role in previous schemes that lost investors millions.
Wow. Convicted fraudster. And he's involved with NCL now.
Yes. So you have this trio, Buscall, Baird, and Findon, actively promoting these unregulated opportunities. They promise high returns, sure.
But they come with serious, serious risk. And as we've seen, a history of failure in many cases.
Precisely.
So if we try and connect this back to the bigger picture, Findon's link to the Conservative Party, that association carries a certain weight, doesn't it? A degree of public trust.
It often does. Whether it's fair or not, people tend to expect a certain level of integrity, transparency, maybe accountability from political figures, even those just in campaigning roles.
So when someone in that kind of position starts promoting high-risk investments, it feels like it blurs the lines.
It absolutely blurs the line between, say, public service and private gain.
And it makes you ask the question, was this just a really poor career decision on his part?
Or, perhaps more cynically, is there a pattern here? Could political credibility be used, maybe unintentionally, maybe deliberately, to give a sort of legitimacy?
A veneer of safety.
Exactly, to products that are actually quite risky or even unsuitable for the average investor.
Either way, it matters. Especially when you look at the outcomes, the complaints, the financial losses, the regulatory scrutiny these schemes often attract.
It taps into something that psychologists call the halo effect,
Ah, right, where positive traits in one area
like perceived trustworthiness from a political role
spill over and make someone seem credible in a completely different area, like finance, even if they aren't.
Exactly. It can make people lower their critical guard, which is dangerous when money is involved.
So why should you, listening to this, be concerned? If someone with political experience pitches an investment,
People do tend to listen more closely. That perceived credibility can make a really risky product seem much safer than it actually is.
so the message is, look beyond the titles. Look beyond the affiliations.
Definitely. You should see it as a potential red flag if a product isn't authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA.
That's the UK's main financial regulator, right? They set the standards for investor protection.
They do. Another red flag, unusually high returns being promised if it looks too good to be true.
It usually is.
And also, look at who's marketing it. Do they have proper financial oversight? Or limited experience? It doesn't matter who's fronting the campaign if the fundamentals are shaky.
And in this specific case, having a Conservative Party campaign manager involved just adds this uncomfortable layer. It forces you to ask, was that reputation, that public trust, used even implicitly to market these products?
It's a valid question to ask.
Okay, so what can people do? If you've been contacted by Robert Findon or anyone else from New Capital Link, maybe push towards a loan note or an off-plan development scheme, what's the advice?
First and foremost, pause. Take your time. It is absolutely essential to investigate the product thoroughly before you commit any money.
How do you investigate?
Ask to see all the documentation. Don't be rushed. Check the company's official filings at Companies House. See who the directors are, look at their accounts if they're available.
Okay.
And critically, look into the track record. Have the introducers, like NCL or the companies issuing the notes, been involved in past failures? A quick search online can sometimes reveal a lot.
Right. Do your due diligence.
Yeah.
But what if someone's already invested? And maybe they're worried now, suspecting something's wrong.
It's important to know that help is available. You don't just have to write it off.
Okay.
There are firms, like Insolvency Law, for example, that specialize in helping investors who've lost money in schemes that have failed or turned out to be fraudulent.
And what can they do?
They offer professional legal advice. They can help you prepare and submit creditor claims. If a company goes into insolvency, they can review the loan note agreements and legal documents you sign.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, they can look into pursuing negligent parties, maybe the introducers, the promoters, even trustees, if there were any, through civil recovery action to try and get some money back.
So there are potential avenues. Where can people find out more about that?
Well, using Insolvency Law as the example, their website is www.insolvencyandlaw.co.uk. You can find contact details there, phone, email. The key message is you don't have to accept the loss without exploring your options. Don't just suffer in silence.
That's really important advice. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway for me is crystal clear.
Yeah.
When you're evaluating any investment opportunity, you absolutely have to look beyond the surface. Look beyond the impressive sounding titles, the affiliations that might seem credible.
Because that perception of trust, especially if it comes from someone in a position of public influence, like politics, it can really obscure significant risks hiding underneath.
It really can.
And this whole situation leaves us with a pretty important question for you, the listener, to think about.
Go on.
How does this intersection, this blurring of lines between political credibility and high-risk finance, how does it challenge our basic assumptions about who we should trust with our money? And maybe more specifically, what does a case like Robert Findon's reveal about the kind of vigilance, the critical thinking that's needed to navigate the really complex financial world we live in today?